Hello Grand Archive players, let's answer a rules question. How does Searing Rebuke work? How about two of them? Searing Rebuke prevents damage as a replacement effect, and applies to any damage being dealt to your champion, up until it prevents 3 damage total. What makes this card and other similar cards like Radiant Repudiation particularly interesting is that they have an associated trigger where the trigger condition is whenever they prevent damage. Also, before we proceed, we'll need to know how multiple replacement effects interact. In case you need to review, damage prevention effects are all replacement effects. When multiple replacement effects apply to the same event, the player who controls or owns whatever is being affected chooses one of those replacement effects to apply. Then, the game reevaluates for any more replacement effects that need to be applied, and if there are any, the player chooses another. This process repeats until there are no more applicable replacement effects. Each effect applies a maximum of 1 time per event. Here's our setup. We activate Searing Rebuke twice. I'll be calling one Rebuke A and the other Rebuke B for clarity. Then our opponent hits us with various amounts of damage. Our goals are, primarily, to deal as much damage as possible to the opposing champion, and secondarily, to prevent as much damage to our own champion as possible. There are 3 scenarios. In Scenario 1, our opponent attacks us with 3 1-power allies. In Scenario 2, they attack with 3 2-power allies. In Scenario 3, they attack with 4 allies with 1, 2, 3, and 4 power. What is the maximum amount of damage we can deal in each of these scenarios along with the minimum amount of damage received? Let's look at our first scenario. Our champion will receive damage in an increment of 1, which will be blocked by either of our Searing Rebuke shields. When this happens, that Searing Rebuke will trigger to deal 3 damage to the opponent. Then this will happen 2 more times for a total of 3 damage absorbed and 3 triggers. There's not much input on our end here. The result will be 9 damage dealt and 0 damage received with 3 prevention remaining. In our second scenario, our champion will receive damage in increments of 2. The first attack will knock off 2 points of damage prevention and return 3 damage. The second attack will also knock off 2 points of prevention. Rebuke A only has 1 prevention left, so we have to tag in Rebuke B for the second point of damage. This time, we have 2 triggers from 2 different Searing Rebukes for 3 damage each for 6 damage total dealt. Then the third attack will knock off the last 2 prevention. Again, regardless of our choices here, the result will be 12 damage dealt and 0 damage received. Note that even though our champion received 3 instances of damage, we were able to get 4 Searing Rebuke triggers. In our third scenario, our champion will first take 1 damage and get 1 trigger to deal 3 damage. Then we can take another 2 damage, getting another trigger. Then another 3 damage taken for 1 last trigger, which uses up the last damage prevention on both of our rebukes. Finally, the last 4 damage is dealt to our champion, for a total of 4 damage dealt and 4 received. However, we can do a bit better. As the controller of the unit receiving damage, we can control which Searing Rebuke prevention effect is being applied first. Let's rewind to the second attack. Instead of taking the 2 damage on our first shield, let's apply Rebuke B first, resulting in 2 damage taken and 3 returned, same as before. However, the current states of our shields are different now. When the third attack comes in for 3 damage, both Rebukes will prevent damage and both trigger for 6 damage. We still can't do anything about the fourth attack though. Our end result now becomes 12 damage dealt and 4 received, which is more damage than before. As you can see, we just gained a strategic advantage without taking any actions, and simply by making choices about replacement effects. Now let's do all 3 scenarios over again, except this time with a little twist. Our champion has an effect that prevents 1 damage for the rest of the turn, such as Vapor Jet Shield, Storm of Thorns, Veiling Breeze for 1, etc. Let's use Fleeting Guard, where X equals 0. How does this change things? Let's look at Scenario 1. Our champion receives damage in increments of 1. Your first inclination might be to minimize the damage by applying damage reduction first, which is normally a good idea. But remember, our primary goal is to deal damage to our opponent, which Searing Rebuke can only do if it actually prevents a non-zero amount of damage. So let's apply one of the Searing Rebukes first instead. In this case, the result will be the same as before. 3 triggers for 9 damage returned and 3 prevention remaining. In Scenario 2, if we apply 1 damage reduction first, we can reduce 2 damage down to 1 before taking it with Searing Rebuke. This results in 3 damage dealt with only 1 damage absorbed. We can do this for the second attack as well. However, for the third attack, we'll want to apply the almost depleted Rebuke first, followed by the other Rebuke, instead of applying Fleeting Guard. This way, we can trigger both Rebukes for 6 damage dealt. Our end result is 12 damage dealt with 2 prevention remaining. In Scenario 3, we'll apply Rebuke first for the 1 damage attack, since we want to trigger Searing Rebuke. For the next attack, we'll apply Fleeting Guard first to reduce the damage to 1. For the third attack, we'll again reduce the damage to 2, which will allow us to trigger both Rebukes. For the fourth attack, we can't double trigger Rebuke, so we'll just reduce the damage to 3. In total, we've dealt 15 damage and taken 1 damage. I hope this gives you an appreciation for how powerful it can be to have so much control over events that happen in the game. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.